Start with a Flea Flicker to open up the night. And he connects with Galladay.
Sup, everyone? This is Timmy B alongside with Joey D, and this is our episode of the Flea Flicker with Joey D and Timmy B, recapping week 14 of the NFL season. Joe, we had a bunch of great games. We had a great guest on in Tyler. He said he was going to go 15-0, so we'll see if he can go 15-0. But Joe, how are you doing today, man?
Doing well, it was Eagles finally got a win. That was cool, and my fantasies all ended up winning. So we're on to the next round of the playoffs. It's a good time to be Joseph.
Absolutely, and you had the sweater on Saturday. I guess that was good luck. You were lighting up that touchdown quite a little bit on Sunday with the Eagles.
Indeed, finally, first time all season.
Hey, well, that's good for you. The Ravens won again. We will get to that because I'm very excited about to talk about that game. But unfortunately, Joe, the first game that we are talking about, the Denver Broncos beating the Carolina Panthers. We all picked the Panthers, so we're all starting off on a bad slate. Broncos win 32-27. There was a chance for the Panthers to come back, but Drew Lock and KJ Hamler were having themselves a good game, and this is what we all expected from Denver this year. If Drew Lock developing, throwing to Judy, throwing to Hamler. So, Joe, give me your thoughts from this Broncos-Panthers game.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me. I mean, Drew Lock having, just an outstanding game. I think it was 4 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, over 300 yards. Spreading the ball around to a couple different people as well. It's really a joy to watch, just a young quarterback kind of coming into his own and having a good game. And also just, being able to utilize, not really the main weapons that we would have expected. I mean, it wasn't like Jerry Jeudy went off, there's no Sutton there. Noah Fant ended up having to leave the game pretty early on. And, it's KJ Hamler, it's Tim Patrick. I can't even remember that tight end. It was like Fugalali or Fugalamali or something like that.
Yeah, the rookie from Missouri. Yeah.
Yeah, he had some wheels, though. He had some wheels on that one screen pass. He almost took to the house. So, it was a lot of good things to watch, just kind of young talent playing well for the Broncos. But I mean, they are also going up a very young defense in Carolina. So I thought that was kind of an interesting matchup, just 2 very young units going up against each other. And the Broncos able to get the better of the Panthers this year. So good game. It was fun to watch. And I had Mike Davis, so 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a fun game to watch. And I mean, this Panthers team definitely – there are no moral losses. There are no, wins from a loss. But, hey, you were competitive in the end if you had Christian McCaffrey. And I would very much like to see these teams at full strength. I mean, even with Von Miller back, Courtland Sutton back, that defense, that offense in Denver, and then some of the pieces in Carolina as well. And it's a good sign for the Broncos that Brandon McManus, one of, Pro Bowl kicker, one of their better kickers, missed a couple of extra points, missed a field goal or 2, and they were still able to win the game. So that's a good sign for this young football team saying, like, hey, like, even though our best player didn't make a couple of kicks, we were still able to win the game. On the flip side, Joe, for our next game, the Buccaneers defeated the Vikings 26-14. Dan Bailey missing a couple of kicks yet again. I think he missed a couple of field goals and a couple of extra points, which is 10 points he left on the field. It was either 10 or 11, which would have put them right there in the game in a position to maybe win with a field goal. And in the first half, the Vikings were dominating this game, but the Buccaneers went up big at half. It was like 20-10 at half. So, Joe, Buccaneers, Vikings, what happened?
Yeah, it was a really weird game. Like you said, the Vikings really dominated that game the majority of the first half if you watched it, but the scoreboard did not show that. So a lot of it was just, the Vikings not taking advantage of, their opportunities and, kind of squandering, field goals, left and right, extra points, kind of getting stopped on 3rd down, just shooting themselves in the foot. And, it's a big loss for Minnesota for a team that, is really scrapping to try to get that 7 seed and, a game that they very well could have won if they had executed better across the board. So, definitely not what you want to see as a Vikings fan, but also not what you want to see as a Buccaneers fan, because this is a game where you should be able to win by, on paper, the Buccaneers are the superior team, in my opinion, very clearly. So the fact that it was, they kind of had to get lucky that the Vikings had an off day in order to win, that's definitely concerning. And just kind of, another example of how no team in the NFC is dominant or, is the clear-cut favorite. So, yeah, that was kind of my takeaway. They just didn't execute. Kirk Cousins.
And you said it, Joe. I think as a Buccaneers fan, I would be concerned too, because on paper they are the better team. Tom Brady should have lit up that Vikings secondary. Now it's been better in recent weeks, and the Vikings have been playing good football. But you had 2 weeks to prepare because they were coming off a bye, and you escaped with the win. You were very flat-footed in the first half. Second half got a little bit better. I mean, they had a penalty at the end of the first half on their Hail Mary. So I would be a little bit concerned as a Bucs fan, but they do get the Falcons a couple of times in the next couple of weeks. And, Joe, is your cat okay?
No, the cat is going after the Christmas tree.
No.
I'm good. We're good.
Hey, it's that time of year. But
yeah, you watch it, dude. You watch it. I got my eyes on you.
But as you said, Joe, there's been no dominant team in the NFC. Now, we've seen some of these teams be dominant, so the question becomes who is going to be that hot team that shows that they are dominating the playoffs. So we're very excited for that. And, another lackluster game, not a lackluster game, but two bad teams. Joe, the Dallas Cowboys go into Cincinnati. Andy Dalton, revenge game. He goes in, throws a couple of touchdowns. Cowboys win 30-7. It's unfortunate Joe Burrow is injured, but we're really seeing just how many pieces this Bengals team needs in the next year or two to really make that playoff push and become a dark horse candidate. But, Joe, I'm very happy Andy Dalton on my fantasy team. We ended up beating the guy who is a Bengals fan and is from Cincinnati, so that was very nice. But, Joe, give me your thoughts from the Cowboys, just really dominating this game against the Bengals.
Yeah, I picked the Bengals to win this game, and, I really thought their offense was going to be able to just be a little bit more have a little bit more success, even though, they're missing a lot of pieces there, between Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's going up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL with Dallas. So I really thought that they would be able to get something going and, be a little bit more competitive. But when you have, I think it was 3 fumbles in the first half, one of which was and one of which was like they took 72 yards for a touchdown. I mean, those are game altering plays, just killed all their momentum because on that one drive they were driving, they were approached in the red zone and, they just missed their opportunity. So Cowboys made the plays they needed to. I mean, Amari Cooper is still a very talented wide receiver, and Andy Dalton, for all of his flaws, when he has a good supporting cast, he can distribute the ball to, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, spread it around. And, Zeke didn't have a fumble of his own this game, so that always helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the Bengals had a healthier offensive line, they're just better offensive line talent, Joe Mixon was healthy and Gio Bernard wasn't fumbling, they might still win this game with the Cowboys' bad rush defense. But, this is just showing the Bengals how much more pieces they need to help out Joe Burrow. And this is starting the streak, Joe, of teams that lost with only scoring 7 points. The next one, we thought this would be a blowout, and we were correct. Back-to-back weeks, we predicted a blowout, and it turned out being the other team winning as Mitchell Trubisky, showing everybody why he was the number 2 overall pick a few years ago, beating the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson 36-7. We all picked the Texans. We all lost this game, and I think we got too caught up in it was just Deshaun Watson versus Mitchell Trubisky because anybody would pick the Texans. But the Texans were basically literally missing every wide receiver on the roster except for Kiki Couture. And I think that's what it came down to. But the Bears defense showed up. Mitchell Trubisky had 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. So they really showed some promise here. Joe, what about your thoughts from this game?
Yeah, I mean, it was a statement win by Mitch Trubisky. I'm sure he went to bed smiling after that. So, props to him. He really showed up and had a really big game. Got the ball to Allen Robinson a lot, who had a huge game. David Montgomery also went off. So, I mean, when your run game is doing well, you're feeding your number 1 wide receiver. Everything else just kind of comes naturally and flows better on offense. But then on the defensive side, this is a very good Bears defense that has not gotten – they've underperformed a little bit this year, and they haven't gotten that much attention since the Bears are a bad team overall. But, I mean, going up against, like you said, this depleted receiving core for the Texans, I mean, nobody's able to get open. What are you going to do? Like, Deshaun Watson can only do so much. If only they had, a DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, he would be pretty good to have on the Texans
I think
now.
he would too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you have David Johnson, you have a running back, so obviously, it's the smart call. So shout out
And you
Bill
got
O'Brien
you had a
for
second
that.
round pick too. So I mean,
Oh yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and David Montgomery, I'm glad you brought him up because he's been running the ball really well the last couple of weeks, and they're really blocking well this Bears team. And the Bears could play spoiler the last couple of weeks. I believe they do play the Packers week 17, so maybe they can pull some magic off in week 17 to maybe prevent the Packers from having that number 1 or number 2 seed, or I guess the number 1 seed with the bye. So the Bears could be a fun team to watch in December, playing a little bit of spoiler. And Joe, the third team that lost by scoring 7 points, the New York Giants, lost to the Arizona Cardinals 26-7. Cardinals went in. We all picked you picked the Giants. Whoops.
Yeah,
But
yep.
you went with the Giants. I'll let you have the floor first. Cardinals, Giants. What were your thoughts and what were you thinking picking the Giants?
I mean, the Giants have, like I said, the Giants had a lot of momentum going into this game, and the Cardinals did not. We talked about before this, 4 out of 5 games they lost, and the one that they won was the Hail Mary. I just, the way that the Giants have been playing, especially against Russell Wilson the week before, I really, had a lot higher expectations for him. But they reminded everyone why they're the New York Giants. That offense was that was the biggest thing. I mean, because the defense in the first half was showing up. I mean, the Cardinals had been driving down the field a lot of the game, kept getting into the red zone and got turned away a couple times, had to settle for field goals a couple other times. So the defense, I felt like, did have a pretty good game. But the biggest story was Hassan Reddick, 5 sacks in this game. Just absolute breakout game by him. I mean, he was a first-round pick, I think, back in 2017 as kind of like a tweener linebacker. And I think this is either his first or second year in like an edge rush role. And he's been doing a really good job. I think he has 10.5 sacks now, I think, on the year. But I think, because 5 of them were in that last game. So, that's that definitely helps going into a contract year for him. But that was the biggest story. Like, the Giants offense just was not able to get anything going. And this Cardinals defense is sneaky. Like, they run a lot of disguises, have a lot of sub packages, blitz a lot. It can be confusing for a young quarterback like Daniel Jones, especially when you don't really have great weapons there to begin with. So definitely something to be concerned about with the Eagles playing the Cardinals next week.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals offensively didn't look that great, and that was the story, was this defense. And on the flip side, maybe Colt McCoy should have started, because I believe the report Sunday morning were saying Daniel Jones wasn't quite 100%, but he's going to go out there and do it. So maybe they rushed him a little bit, but this also shows you, the last couple of weeks we've been talking with the Giants and the football team winning. You're like, okay, the NFC East winner is going to be like 7-9, 8-8 probably. That's not bad. But I think this Cardinals win kind of shows like, all right, like, it's still the NFC East. They're still a little bit weaker than other teams.
Can't string those big wins together back to back.
Right.
You got one here and there.
And we'll see. The Giants got another big home game this weekend, Sunday Night Football against the Cleveland Browns. So that's going to be very interesting. But the Cardinals got the much-needed win. Just win, get out, go home, playing the Eagles this week. And now, Joe, Tractor Cito, man. Titans win 31-10. And I don't want to say it wasn't a classic Tractor Cito game, because he ran for like 500 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but it just wasn't like every highlight was him busting out 80-yard touchdown runs. He was just getting 30 yards, 30 yards, 30 yards, 30 yards. And on the Jaguars side, they bench Glennon. Gardner Minshew comes in, does okay. He's now the starting quarterback for this week's matchup against the Ravens, the best secondary in the NFL. But Joe, Titans, Jaguars, any other takeaways aside from this was expected?
It was expected, but like we said at the beginning of the year when these two teams played, it was really close. So it's good. It's encouraging for the Titans to be able to see that, right now when it matters for them to start getting hot and getting, just a little bit more shored up on the defensive side of the ball, especially, and then being able to run the ball effectively like Derrick Henry. I mean, these are the kind of games that you got to have to be successful in the playoffs. And especially, going into the playoffs, this is not only a game they should win, this is a game they should be able to roll against the Jaguars. And they did. So it's definitely what you want to see from the Titans. Jaguars still looking like 1-15 is looking good for Timmy B.
I sure hope so. And I mean, as long as they're still in contention for 1-15 next week, I'm going to be a happy man. Hopefully it's not too much of a trap game. But that's all I really have to say about the Titans-Jaguars. You said that's a game where you have to win by 3 touchdowns, especially this late in the season if you are going for that division title with the Titans. And now it's game of the day, and we pretty much nailed it, Joe, with the Chiefs. Well, game of the 1 o'clocks. With the Chiefs-Dolphins, the Dolphins get a couple of early interceptions off Patrick Mahomes, 2 of them, and they were up 10-0. And then the Chiefs did come back a little bit. It was about 14-10, 17-10 at halftime, and everybody was like, all right, Dolphins, like maybe we could do this in the second half. And then blink of an eye, like the Chiefs always do, they got a punt return touchdown, they got a deep touchdown. All of a sudden, it's now 31-10. But then Tua comes back, 33-27. Chiefs win. Mahomes 3 interceptions. Dolphins defense looked pretty good. Tua looked pretty good as well. Joe, give us your thoughts from this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I think I mentioned it a little bit in the preview. If they were able to get some of those turnovers in the red zone and then convert it into points, that was going to be the biggest thing. Just kind of flip that momentum, and have that swing go, from it's basically a 14-point swing when the Chiefs are in the red zone and they don't score, and then the Dolphins score. So they really needed to capitalize a little bit more off of those turnovers. I mean, when you have 2 picks in the first half, and you've had the ball a couple of times, you should have more than a 10-0 lead. Right. I think that was the biggest thing. They just weren't able to capitalize off of those turnovers as much, and make it even more of a uphill battle for the Chiefs to climb back. We've talked about all year. You can't really stop the Chiefs. You can only contain them so much. And I really felt like the Dolphins defense contained Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense about as well as any defense can really hope. So, it's a very encouraging game for the Dolphins. We don't, like you said, no moral losses, moral victories, whatever. But, that's the top offense in the NFL and one of the top players and quarterbacks of all time in Patrick Mahomes. And Dolphins defense held their own against him. So that's definitely an encouraging sign going into the playoffs. If you can, Myles Gaskin didn't play this game. I think it was all DeAndre Washington. So, maybe if they get a couple more pieces back, and Devontae Parker also exited this game pretty early as well. So, if they get a couple pieces back and, can be a little healthier and play the Chiefs again, who knows? This defense, they're legit, and it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said with containing the Chiefs too, is that many weeks ago when they played the Broncos the first time in Denver, Patrick Mahomes didn't have a touchdown. He only threw for about 270 yards, an interception or 2. But the Chiefs had a pick 6 and they had a kick return touchdown. And when you play the Chiefs, you have to be good on special teams and you have to be good on offense to not give either Patrick Mahomes a short field or the ability for a pick 6 or kick return, because that's 14 points right there. And even if Mahomes is struggling, you get a kick return and then you get an interception in the red zone. That's probably 10 points with Harrison Butker. So that's one big thing when you play the Chiefs, is that you might be able to contain Mahomes, but can you contain the special teams and the defense? Because the Chiefs always get creative in scoring. We saw with the Tyreek Hill's first touchdown, it was like a little end-around run. So, but you nailed it about the Dolphins too, Joe. This is a very exciting team to watch. This is going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if they're going to win the division, but they'll definitely have a fun wild card matchup. We'll see if they can, make some noise in the playoffs. And we're moving to the 4 o'clock slate now, Joe. And the Jets go up 3-0 again. But then the Seahawks score 40 unanswered points. Russell Wilson had 4 or 5 touchdowns. DK Metcalf had a couple of TDs on his birthday. This was the game the Seahawks needed after losing to the Giants at home last week, just coming in, playing the Jets, got to win by 40. They did. Any other thoughts, Joe?
I don't know what you do if you're a Jets player, like getting on the plane to fly home, or on the bus or something. Your team is, what are they now? 0-12, 0-13?
0-13. 0-13.
0-13. You just put up 3 points and got blown out 40-3. What is that plane ride back like? That's what I want to know. My God, everyone on that team is probably I got to get out of here.
Yeah, but then again, when you get on the plane, you get the notification from your bank that your game check clears, and you're like, this ain't bad. This ain't bad. Sure. But the Jets are definitely probably going to go 0. So don't want to say definitely, but they're on pace for 0-16 in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And now a huge, huge game in the AFC playoff race. The Indianapolis Colts go into Las Vegas. Vegas fired the defensive coordinator Sunday night or early Monday morning because back-to-back-to-back weeks, they're They're giving up a bunch of points. They gave up 40-plus to the Falcons. They allowed the Jets to score 27 or 30 points, and now giving up 44 points to the Indianapolis Colts offense, which is good. Jonathan Taylor finally breaking out as that running back that they drafted him to be. Phillip Rivers did enough. The defense did great. Colts win 44-27. Really helps the Ravens not eliminating, but making getting a game ahead of the Raiders. But Joe, Colts Raiders. I mean, what were your takeaways from this game?
T.Y. Hilton is back, baby.
T.Y. Hilton.
I love it. Picked him up off waivers just like 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, right before the Sunday game. Put him in, over 20 points. Put him in again, over 20 points. This man he's a baller. I love it. I mean, I've always been a huge T.Y. Hilton fan. This guy, when he has the ball in his hands, he's electric. He can run such great routes. He has really good hands. And him and Phillip Rivers are finally starting to get that chemistry together right when it really matters. That run game with Jonathan Taylor, this could propel them. Like, this Colts team is scary in the playoffs because of how they're built. I mean, with such a strong defense, such a strong offensive line, and the potential for a really good run game. And then, like I said, Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton right now starting to get that connection going. I mean, this Colts team can be really scary in the playoffs. So I'm really excited to see what they continue to do there. It's a big win for them and their organization. On the flip side with the Raiders, I'm a little surprised with the decision to fire Paul Guenther, because the Raiders have invested so much money on the offensive side of the ball and so little money on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, there's not much talent there to speak of. I mean, they have a couple of draft picks that, are doing well. But it's a young team that, I wish they had held on to him and kind of kept that consistency and, been able to see what the defense could continue to grow and evolve into with, the same D coordinator and the same young core kind of growing together. But yeah, I mean, Raiders offense also wasn't able to, really get enough going there. They just never really seemed to be in sync, throughout the game. So, definitely a big win for the Colts, and, concerning for the Raiders. This is a team that, you very well could play in the first round, the wild card at the playoffs. So, definitely, discouraging for the Raiders that, they keep losing these games where, it's a real measuring stick and they keep coming up short, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, too, to see the Colts, because you said that they can be a very dangerous team. Not this week, but next week. They are at Pittsburgh in Week 16, so that's going to be a great matchup. Pittsburgh's obviously going to have to play. So will the Colts. It's a must-win for both teams to solidify their playoff spot or division title for the Steelers. So that'll be a good gauge to see how good this Colts team can really be, because if they don't win the division, they might be going at Pittsburgh again wild card weekend. So that'll be a fun matchup. And now we got Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, Devontae Adams, 8 straight games with the touchdown. That is one dynamic duo of a quarterback and wide receiver. Packers win 31-24. Now, Joe, are you concerned that it was only 31-24 against this Lions team that fired Patricia, really have nothing to play for right now? That's my big question.
I'm not super concerned, simply because it's a divisional game and Matt Stafford has been playing against this Packers team for quite some time now. It's a little bit concerning in that aspect that, their defense still continues to allow a lot of points. I mean, 24 isn't a lot, but, and when you have Aaron Rodgers, you should be able to put up more than 24 points. So, it doesn't concern me that much. But, I liked what I saw out of the Lions and, the fight that they had. It was a good game. They played them well. And, I really hope Matt Stafford can get a chance to get out of Detroit, man. Somebody's got to go trade a first, like Indianapolis, unless they get Carson Wentz. There's a couple different places he could go. I mean, what if Matt Stafford went to New England? How about that? Like, I mean, I want him to go somewhere he can be successful, because that guy is so slept on, and week in, week out, he continues to be a baller, but just doesn't get that attention or that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see where Matt Stafford goes if the Lions do deal him, or if he works something out. But yeah, that's a not a good organization to be a part of right now. And Joe, now it's time to move to a game that did not disappoint, with the Chargers beating the Falcons 20-17. We said it, the Chargers find ways to lose. The Falcons blow big leads. In the final, 2.5, 3 minutes, it was tied at 17. Matt Ryan throws an interception. Justin Herbert throws an interception. Matt Ryan throws another interception. Neither team wanted to win, but the Chargers ended up getting the ball in a good spot to kick a game-winning field goal, and they did. So I feel very good and very happy for the Chargers because those are games that they normally lose, but playing the Falcons, this is a game that they won. So it didn't disappoint at all, but other than that, it was a pretty lackluster game, only 20-17. Calvin Ridley got a touchdown early on, but that was about it. But, Joe, any thoughts from this Chargers-Falcons game?
Not a lot. Like you said, it just seemed like neither of these teams wanted to win. Mm-hmm. I saw Matt Ryan just so pissed off when he threw that third interception. So, to me, I mean, that it just speaks to, his character, him as a competitor, and how, there's – even though this is – a lost season for Atlanta. I mean, there's still guys fighting. Same with the Chargers. This is still important for Justin Herbert's development. So it's not a game that you want to see from the Chargers offense against a Falcons defense that has been really susceptible this year. Other than that, like you said, pretty lackluster overall. Not a whole lot to go into there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's not much more to talk about this game, so let's just move on to the next one, which, Joe, it is Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles beating the New Orleans Saints 24-21. They tried to lose. They tried. They tried pretty hard, but the defense showed up big time, all black uniforms. Jalen Hurts didn't look fantastic, but he still did enough to win the game. Joe, your Eagles, will let you have the floor. Give us your thoughts from this game.
Yeah, like you said, he didn't look fantastic, but the biggest thing was he didn't necessarily have to look fantastic for the offense to have cohesion. I mean, he didn't take negative plays. He was not sacked a single time, which I thought was insane. I mean,
especially against the Saints defense too.
Against the Saints defense with this ragtag offensive line. I mean, he was decisive in the pocket. He had a lot of poise. But he was also just able to use his legs so well. He's an elite scrambler. We thought that he was like a good scrambler, like a Russell Wilson. Right now, from what I've seen out of the last two games, I mean, I'd put him right below that Kyler Murray and then Lamar Jackson tier. And just in terms of his scrambling ability and just instincts moving the pocket. Again, I mean, this is a great Saints defense and a terrible offensive line. And he did not take sacks. He wasn't asked to do a ton in the passing game. I really liked the game plan in terms of, using him as a runner a lot on designed runs like QB powers, some counters, some read options. That really opened up the run game for the rest of the team, like Miles Sanders, who finally had a really good game and showed why he can, continue to be a really good running back in this league. So I was really – that was the one thing that really stood out to me in terms of the game plan. I really liked it. And so that makes me just wonder, again, how many of these plays is Carson Wentz changing? How many audibles is he calling? How many checks is he making? Because, I mean, it's a rookie quarterback in his first start. He's not going out there making a bunch of checks. He's saying, yes, sir, you call the play. Like, okay, I'll run it and trust you, and the offense moved. We moved the ball. I like the aggressiveness by Doug Peterson to go for it 4 times. I think we were 2 for 4 on 4th downs, one of which, one of the ones that we got was a 4th and 2, Alshon Jeffrey touchdown. That was a great play. I mean, perfect pass, getting hit on 4th and 2, real ballsy call and ballsy play, but it worked out. So Alshon Jeffrey finally doing something. But then, on the defensive side of the ball, we really got after them. Josh Sweat had a breakout game. Javon Hargrave is starting to pick it up. 17-0 in the first half is unreal. It would have been 20-0, but Jake Elliott missed a 22-yard field goal. And like I said, great contract by Howie Roseman. If we cut him this year, we lose $8 million. If we cut him next year, we lose $2.5 million. So excellent. But defense really showed up for the majority of that game until the second half when, I don't know if you saw it, Tim, everyone went down. The whole defense goes down. I mean, Rodney McLeod, starting free safety, he goes down with a non-contact injury, which I don't know if you saw, but he was coming in on blitz on Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill got the pass out right before McLeod kind of pulled up at the last second to jump out of the way and avoid a roughing the passer call. And the way he came down on his leg, he ended up tearing his MCL. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. And then Darius Slay exited with a concussion. Avonte Maddox, I forget what his injury was, but he left. Malik Jackson left. Derek Barnett left. So the biggest thing was that for like the third and fourth quarter, this secondary is guys, I do not know their names. Like straight up, I do not know who this Kevin Seymour guy is. I think I don't know. Like, but they held on. They did what they had to do to finish it out at the end. I can't believe that they got that onside kick because that did not look like we recovered it. That fumbled by Jalen Hurts is rough. But, outside of that, he had no negative plays. I mean, 58 minutes and 20 seconds of that game, 0 negative plays. I mean, just consistently putting the offense in good position to keep moving the chains and, keep the defense off the field. So it was a lot of good things, that I saw. Bummer about the draft position, because with the Cowboys winning and the Chargers winning, we could have moved up to like number 3. I think now we're down to number 9. Still alive in the playoff race, so Super Bowl run is back on, I guess. We'll see. It's insane how much success Doug Peterson has with backup quarterbacks compared to starters. Or compared to Carson Wentz. I think that his record with Carson Wentz is like something like 34, 32 and 1. And then his record with backup QBs is 11 and 2. I mean, it's unreal. And it really makes me question how much of it is on, like, it's the biggest question that Jeffrey Lurie has to figure out. Cause from what I understand, it does not look like Howie Roseman is going to get canned. And it's basically, if it's going to come down to it, it's going to come down to Doug Peterson or Carson Wentz, in terms of who do you hold on to and who do you try to move on from? I mean, it's a tough call. And, Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's done a lot with backup QBs. There's still a lot of things from that offensive performance that, you'd still like to see done differently. Not really a lot of explosive passing plays. Especially down the field. That's an area that we just continue to struggle in. So that's the question that we got to figure out. Is it Carson Wentz or is it Doug Peterson? I don't know how, if Jalen Hurts continues to do well, you bring back everyone. I don't know how you bring back Wentz and Jalen Hurts next year and, sell that to the team. Like, I mean, do you have an open QB competition and, either go with Wentz after looking terrible this year and Hurts potentially looking good, or do you go with Jalen Hurts and have your $128 million quarterback ride the bench? Like, it's such a weird situation, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves. So, Howie Roseman, I really hope you figure this out because I have no idea what we're gonna do.
Yeah, and you said it too. Like, you guys don't know what to do. Short term, it's just like, well, let's see how Hurts does the last couple of games of the season. But long term, you got to be thinking, well, if we keep winning these games, we gotta have to make this decision. And to me, it's not the same as Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson because they're two different quarterbacks. Right. But you saw 2 years ago, we basically, when Lamar took over as starter, we were doing Lamar in like a Joe Flacco playbook. And you saw last year how good we were when we had like a Lamar Jackson playbook and we built the offense to his strengths. So we'll see what the Eagles go with. And then on the Saints side, with Taysom Hill at quarterback, they are still a very one-dimensional team because Taysom Hill's not going to throw 25 times and try to beat you with his arm. But when you only have Alvin Kamara, and not to bring up the Ravens again, but we saw on Monday Night Football that Lamar Jackson only threw 8, 9, 10 times. We were still able to put up 47 points. We were still dominating on the run because we have Lamar Jackson, we have Gus Edwards, we have J.K. Dobbins. We have more weapons than just Alvin Kamara. So hopefully Drew Brees can come back because I would love to see Patrick Mahomes versus Drew Brees this weekend. But after this Eagles-Saints game, we're moving to the team that is now in sole possession of the NFC East. The Washington football team goes to Arizona and beats the San Francisco 49ers 23-15. No offensive touchdowns. I believe the stat they put up in the game was first time since 1992 a Washington football team won a road game with outscoring an offensive touchdown. Chase Young, unbelievable human being, unbelievable football player, picked up a fumble, took it back to the house. But Alex Smith went down, and we saw what this offense was with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback in the second half.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty. It wasn't good. But that Washington defense, man, this could be a scary game for whoever that 5 seed is if the football team does win the division wildcard weekend. But, Joe, give us your thoughts from this dominant defense of Washington.
Yeah, and I mean, on the pregame show, that's really what we focused on talking about. That was the real matchup. I mean, this Nick Mullins versus the Washington front seven. That's why, in my mind, it was a pretty easy decision to pick the football team since, I mean, it's Nick Mullins. He's not a good quarterback.
Same.
You know, Deebo Samuel ended up leaving early as well. I mean, they don't have a ton of weapons on offense. Raheem Mostert, I think, left early as well. You know, so that front seven is going to get after you. You have to get the ball out quick. And when you don't have a great quarterback to start with, and then you don't have a lot of great playmakers in there as well, you know, it's going to be a tough day. So, you know, that's really just the biggest key for this Washington football team. I mean, it's going to be a mismatch pretty much every time when they go up against an offensive line. So it's just how much can they exploit that and turn it into wins. And I mean, we've seen the last few weeks between, you know, this game and the Steelers game, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they are exploiting the mismatch and they are turning it into points, into wins. I mean, you know, Montez Sweat last week, was it the pick six against the Steelers that he had then, or was that the week before?
It wasn't the pick six, but I think he
was batting a lot of passes down. Yeah.
He caused the interception in Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, plays like that with this front seven, I mean, they're not only taking points off the board for the other team, but they're adding points to their own as well. I mean, with the way that the offense looked with Dwayne Haskins, that's what they're going to have to do. So the fact that they might feel like they have to step their game up even more moving forward, that should be really scary for, you know, every team on their schedule right now, including the Eagles.
Yeah, and I do believe one of their other games, it might be this week, I think it's Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So it's going to be interesting to see not only Russell Wilson against this front seven, but the front seven against Russell Wilson. And you mentioned the team that they also dominated last week, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went into Buffalo, and they didn't look good. They made it a game. They came back on a 2-point conversion, but Bills win 26-15. I said in the pregame this was a statement game for the Buffalo Bills. I wish there were fans there. It would have been an electric time in Buffalo. But that is exactly what this Bills team needed to do to say, hey, we're one of the elite AFC teams now, and we're here to party. So Josh Allen looked pretty good. Stephon Diggs went off like everybody predicted against a banged-up Steelers secondary. But on the flip side, the Steelers offense looked pretty good. Juju Smith-Schuster got a little bit more involved. He scored a touchdown on an illegal pick play. We won't talk about that. But, I mean, this Bills team looks pretty good, Joe, and I'm very excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. But give me your thoughts from Bills Steelers.
Yeah, I picked the Steelers in this game. God, this is a rough week. And, you know, I just thought that they were going to be able to bounce back a little bit after – you know, losing to the Washington football team the week before, and, you know, play with a chip on their shoulder. But, you know, the defense I thought had some good plays and some good moments. I mean, they forced a couple turnovers off Josh Allen. I mean, it was a snowy game, so I thought that would really kind of be in the Steelers' favor. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, that offense just it does not look as crisp or as consistent as it did early on this year. I mean, they're not really able to run the ball successfully at all. I think that's, you know, the biggest concern going into the playoffs. But then their receivers, which have kind of been carrying them a lot of this year, nobody's really stepping up. I mean, Chase Claypool, he hasn't done much the last few weeks. Deontay Johnson continues to have more and more drops each and every week. I think he leads the league by a pretty wide margin there. And Juju, we talked about it last year. I mean, he's not a number one wide receiver. You know, I think he's a very high end number two, but as a number one, you know, when you're facing, you know, double teams and coverage rolled towards you constantly. I mean, he's obviously not the same player that, you know, he was when Antonio Brown was there. So the Steelers have to be able to figure out a way to find some more success on offense. I mean, 16 points is never really going to get it done in today's NFL.
especially against a Bills offense that we've seen Josh Allen at MVP levels and putting up 30, 40 points, and then on the flip side being struggling as well. But the Steelers, I mean, luckily their next matchup this week is against the Bengals, so hopefully they can get right because their last two games are the Colts and then the Cleveland Browns. So hopefully the Steelers can pick it up, but the Bills got a much-needed win, especially with the Dolphins losing to gain that extra game, and one or two more wins for Buffalo will clinch a division title. And now it's time to go for Monday Night Football. The Ravens and the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens go in and win 47-42, technically 45-22, but the safety on the fumble Ruski at the end. And Justin Tucker, man, best kicker. And it feels so nice when I see almost every team in the NFL kicker missing kicks left and right, and we're just sitting back being like, I love Justin Tucker, man. And I mean, this was a great game. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Ravens we gave up 42 points. Clearly we do have a lot of flaws, and I said it in the pregame show that I was worried that this could have been like the Titans game where we kind of sold out on the run and the play action would be available. We kind of did that. We contained the run a little bit. There weren't too many explosive runs. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt did get their touchdowns worth, but by no means were they just running for 30, 40 yards like Derrick Henry was against us. So the defense does need a lot of work. Secondary is still looking a little shaky, but hopefully we can bounce back. And offensively, man, Lamar Jackson's looking good. Hollywood Brown, catch the football, please. I don't care that you did catch that one touchdown on fourth down. You were 1 for 4. You had 3 drops. One of them was a critical third down, which would have gotten us a first down and more with Trace McSorley in. So Hollywood, you need to hit the jug machine a little bit. But we looking good. Greg Roman has finally realized that this is J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Mark Ingram played on the first play of the game, and that was his only snap. I guess that must be just some like starter contract clause or whatever. So, I mean, that was good. Lamar Jackson did go out, and we now need a backup quarterback. Hopefully RG3 can return soon, but we look pretty good. Still need a lot of work, but our last 3 games, the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Bengals. So hopefully we get that momentum going for our playoff push and our Super Bowl run. But, Joe, what were your thoughts from watching the game or some of the highlights from Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me was, like you said, Mark Ingram not really playing and the other 2 running backs really shining with that opportunity. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, like they spent a second-round draft pick on this guy for a reason. This guy had a fantastic career at Ohio State for a reason. I mean, he's a very good runner. He's young. And, there's no reason not to ride him out at the end of the year. So I'm glad that, maybe that was kind of their thought process, let Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards kind of handle it at the beginning of the year. And as J.K. Dobbins kind of continues to learn the offense and grow as an NFL back, he kind of gets more work towards the end of the year. So hopefully these next 3 games, they can continue to ride him into the playoffs. And he can only continue to build on the success he had in this game. Lamar after he was slipping all over the first half and the second half, he was just on fire. And even when he was slipping, you still couldn't catch him. So he's so elite running the ball. He just looks so fast out there. It's just, such a threat at any point in the game to take it to the house or, rip off a huge game, even if you cover everybody perfectly. So, definitely concerns on the defensive side. Allowing 40 points to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I know this is, kind of a improved offense, but, you're the Baltimore Ravens. You gotta be able to, kind of put your foot down on little brothers Cleveland Browns a little bit more, I feel like.
Yeah, and it was kind of like the Titans game where in the fourth quarter, that Cleveland goes on a drive, scores a touchdown, then Trace McSorley goes in, we go 3 and out. Then we put our defense back on the field. So it was just a product of our defense just being on the field for the majority of the second half of the third quarter and most of the fourth quarter. So it could be a little gassing thing. So with our offense, if we do get a couple of first downs, give our defense a little bit of rest, But you said it, Cleveland offense has definitely improved. They still have the weapons with Chubb and Hunt, and their wide receivers were catching everything thrown at them by Baker Mayfield. But it's nice to get this win. Nice that Justin Tucker made that field goal. And it's always nice seeing those Cleveland Browns fans in the stands just staring away because this was one of their biggest games in the last handful of years for the Cleveland Browns. National TV in a playoff spot, a win puts you a game behind Pittsburgh for the division. And they were like, this is our time to shine and say, hey, NFL, we're here. We are like a legit contender now. And then Big Brother still beats them. So definitely huge for the Ravens win, and Browns will still be fine. They're still going to make the playoffs, and division is still in line for Cleveland. And Joe, you didn't have the best of weeks, but you went 9-7, so we'll see if you can get a little bit of help to make the wild card. I went 11-5 with my picks, and our guest Tyler Antonelli went 9-6, which is basically 9-5. So kudos to him. The curse still hits him. And we had a couple of games to pick. There are a couple of games on Saturday. And so we're going to pick the Thursday night football. We're going to pick the two games on Saturday. The first Thursday night game, or the only Thursday night game, is the Los Angeles Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a game the Raiders absolutely need to win against the Chargers. Raiders are a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is at 53. Joe, the Raiders have looked bad the last 3 weeks. Can they bounce back and beat the Chargers?
I think they will, yeah. And I agree that they've definitely looked bad the last few weeks, but I wouldn't be shocked to see this as a game where the Raiders still continue to look bad, but the Chargers give it away. Like we've said, the Chargers, they did not want to win this game against the Falcons. They continue to find new ways to lose each and every week. I just don't see them being able to, have what happened just this past week against Atlanta and Matt Ryan throw 2 interceptions in the final 2 minutes to lose the game for you happen again. I think that's really what it comes down to. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the defense does against Justin Herbert now without Paul Guenther. Justin Herbert goes off. It's going to just raise a lot of question marks there. I think one name to keep an eye on for future defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips, apparently would be interested in taking that job. He's still trying to coach again. I think that's got to be the focus point for this Raiders team in the draft and in free agency as well. Shore up that defense somehow. But for this game, they've got to just be able to hold on against the Chargers, and I think they will be able to hold on. But I just don't know if it'll be enough.
Yeah, this is a tough game to pick for me. The Raiders should win this game, but you said it, firing the defensive coordinator a short week. The Chargers really have nothing to play for except for just Justin Herbert showing how good of a quarterback he is. And I'm you know what? I'm just going to take the Chargers again. We're going to go opposite on Thursday Night Football. I'm going to go with the Chargers. And a big thing to look out for is next week, the Raiders have a big game with the Miami Dolphins, and they do get the extra rest playing on Thursday Night Football, but maybe they're looking ahead. They're seeing the Chargers. They're saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to win this game and move on. So I'm going to go with the Chargers and going with Justin Herbert. I think it will be a high-scoring game. So we are opposites on Thursday Night Football. We'll see how we do on Saturday. And speaking of Saturday, we do have two games. They're not that great, but the first one, we got the Buffalo Bills, a 7-point favorite on the road to the Denver Broncos. The over-under is set at 50. Joe, to me, 7 seems like a lot of points, especially against a Vic Fangio defense on the road. Saturday, late afternoon, early evening in Denver. It's going to be a cold one. I don't know if there's going to be snow or not, but I think the Bills are going to win, but I don't think that this is going to be a very close game, and it's going to be a hard-fought win for the Bills. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. I think the Bills are going to be able to win this game, but I do think it's going to be tough. It's it kind of reminds me almost of the Miami against Kansas City matchup, but kind of like the little brothers of those teams in terms of the Broncos defense and, the Bills offense. So I think that, this Broncos defense has shown, real big-time potential and real flashes when, they've faced some of the top quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. So, going up against one of the top quarterbacks this year in Josh Allen, who's also been prone to turning the ball over. If the Broncos are able to kind of take advantage of that and capitalize a little bit more than Miami was. Look who we got.
Oh!
Millie agrees.
Kitty cat.
Millie, get out of here. All right. Come on. Now, if you're going to get up there, you got to keep walking. Why would you just get up there and just post up in front of the camera? My God, so disrespectful. We're gonna go with the Buffalo Bills. Unfortunately, it's not a cat. Otherwise, that would have been kind of a fun moment right there if I could have picked the Bengals or the Lions or something. Oh, but next game,
Speaking of cats, Joe, the next game is the Carolina Panthers at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are a 9-point home favorite. Over/under is at 51. When these two teams played last year around this time, Panthers almost won it and won. I believe they almost tied it, and they didn't get the 2-point conversion to tie the game or to take the lead. So this should be a fun and interesting game. However, I think this is going to be Aaron Rodgers, now that they have the 1 seed, saying, 1 seed is ours. We're the best team in the NFC. Let's bring it. So I'm going with the Packers. But, Joe, is your cat going to bring you good luck to pick the Panthers in this game?
No, she won't. I mean, it would be fitting. I would love to pick the Panthers for that reason alone. And I do think Mike Davis is going to have a big game.
Packers have a better run defense.
Exactly. So this is huge for me in my fantasy personally because I have Mike Davis in my big money league, and the guy I'm playing has McCaffrey. And he also tried to trade for Mike Davis earlier after McCaffrey went down. I said, nah. And it's worked out perfectly for me. So I think this is going to be that's going to be a big matchup there. How well the Panthers are going to be able to run the ball is going to determine how close this game is, because I just feel like every time Rodgers gets the ball, him and Devontae Adams are just going to go off and continue to have big games. I think this is going to be another really big Devontae Adams game. I don't know if the Panthers will be able to keep up. That's my only concern. If the Packers get out to an early lead and then the Panthers can't run the ball, then Mike Davis doesn't do anything and I lose. God, Tim, don't let it happen, Tim.
I won't let it happen. I definitely will not let it happen, but we're all riding the Packers. And that'll do it for this episode, our Week 14 recap, as well as our pick for Week 15 Thursday Night Football, as well as Saturday afternoon and Saturday Night Football. Joe, man, any final words on the last couple of weeks of the season?
Come down the wire. It's crazy. It's gone by so fast. Yeah. I mean, Christmas is right around the corner, New Year's, and that's January. I mean, it's crazy how fast this year's gone. I'm very thankful for football. I mean, I feel like it's really helped the second half of this year go by quicker, which, Lord knows we all need. So, let's keep it going. Have a fun end of the year, and hopefully find a trade partner for either Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts.
That's the dream, Joe. And I don't have any words. Very thankful for football. Thankful for the Flea Flicker. If you would like to be our guest picker on Saturday, you're just going to be picking with me. Joe has some scheduling conflicts, so he will be unable to record. So if you would like to be our guest.
By the way, there was another Flea Flicker on Sunday.
Yes, the A.J. Brown touchdown.
A.J. Brown, yeah, we forgot to talk about it.
And
the Ravens grab too.
The Ravens tried to do a Flea Flicker on the first play with Mark Ingram, but it didn't quite work. But if you would like to be a guest on the Flea Flicker, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below of your pick for one of the Thursday or Saturday night games. We actually record on Saturday, so we'll get your pick then. But definitely, guys, everybody have a great day. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. Enjoy the holiday season if you are traveling in the next couple of days to see some family and friends, safely, of course. But have a great day, and we will see you on Saturday. Well, Joe won't.